are among the focus areas of the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the adoption of the declaration titled One Family during the second session of the G20 Leaders Summit.
हमारी टीम्स के हार्डवर्क से और आप सभी के सहयोग से नई दिल्ली G20 लीडर्स समिट डिक्लेरेशन पर सहमति बनी है। मेरा प्रस्ताव है कि इस लीडर्स डिक्लेरेशन को भी एडॉप्ट किया जाए। मैं इस डिक्लेरेशन को एडॉप्ट करने की घोषणा करता हूं।
Briefing media after today's sessions, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said the declaration envisages a green development pact for a sustainable future. He said the leaders condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and recognized that it is one of the most serious threats to international peace and security.
The question on counter-terrorism, Year 5 speaks about the role of the FATF because clearly the financing of terrorism is a very strong concern which the entire international community, not just the G20, shares.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted the achievements made during the finance track under India's G20 presidency. She said member countries agreed to strengthening of multilateral development banks, MDBs, and collectively work to boost the World Bank financial capacity.
Of the Indian presidency, the finance track, the outcomes which are focused on strengthening the MDBs to address shared global challenges of the 21st century. So under this strengthening MDBs, agreement on the need for a better, bigger and more effective MDBs.
Highlighting the key features of the New Delhi Declaration, India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant said every single country has come together to focus on Green Development Pact. He said India's presidency has been the most ambitious in the history of G20 presidencies with 112 outcomes and presidency documents. He added that with 83 paras and absolutely no dissent, the New Delhi Declaration symbolizes unparalleled global consensus. Earlier today, with the kickstart of the 18th G20 Summit, the African Union became a permanent member of the grouping on India's proposal. At the inaugural session of the 18th G20 Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited the head of the African Union, Azali Assoumani, to take his seat as a permanent member of the G20.
भारत की G20 प्रेसिडेंसी देश के भीतर और देश के बाहर इंक्लूजन का, सबका साथ का प्रतीक बन गई है। सबका साथ की भावना से ही भारत ने प्रस्ताव रखा था कि अफ्रीकन यूनियन को G20 की स्थायी सदस्यता दी जाए। आप सबकी सहमति से मैं अफ्रीकन यूनियन के अध्यक्ष को G20 के स्थायी सदस्य के रूप में अपना स्थान ग्रहण करने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं।
Mr. Modi also called upon the world to come together to transform the global trust deficit among nations into trust and confidence. He said this is the time for everyone to move together. He also said concrete solutions needed to address the challenges related to food, fuel, terrorism, cybersecurity, health and energy.
कोविड-19 के बाद विश्व में एक बहुत बड़ा संकट विश्वास के अभाव का आया है। युद्ध ने इस ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट को और गहरा किया है। जब हम कोविड को हरा सकते हैं तो हम आपसी विश्वास पर आए इस संकट पर भी विजय प्राप्त कर सकते हैं।
We now go over live to our correspondent Bhupendra Singh for more insights on the first day of the summit. Bhupendra, please throw some light on the significance of the New Delhi Declaration.
Yes, well, sir, in the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration, the member countries have expressed their commitment to accelerate sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth with effective implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. They also committed to accelerate actions to address the issue of climate challenge by pursuing low carbon emissions, climate resilient and environmentally sustainable development pathways. To deal with the future health emergencies, the member nations agreed to improve medical supplies in developing countries. They also agreed to pursue reforms for better, bigger, more effective multilateral development banks to address global challenges. Member countries expressed their commitment to improve access to digital services and digital public infrastructure. Expressing concern on the ongoing war in Ukraine, it was felt by the member nation that these issues can have significant consequences for the global economy.
Right, Bhupendra, a historic decision was taken today to include the African Union under the ambit of G20. How do you see this move?
Yes, Valsa, African Union inclusion in the G20 forum is a big victory for India. This will further enhance India's growing stature in the world. In addition, economic, strategic and cultural relations with African countries will also be strengthened with this move. Since India assumed the presidency of the G20, it has consistently made efforts to amplify the voice of the global South and to bring the African Union into the ambit of the G20. If we talk about the global challenges like food and energy security, many countries included in the African Union are facing these challenges. With the joining of the G20 forum, the voice of the African Union countries will be heard in a profound manner, and they will also get the support from the member nation of G20 countries to effectively deal with the challenges faced by the African Union countries. It is also expected that this step will boost economic growth and investment in African countries.
Right. Thank you, Bhupendra, for joining us with all those details. On the sidelines of the G20 Leaders Summit, the Prime Minister held bilateral meetings with United Kingdom Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Japanese PM Fumio Kishida. The Prime Minister said during his meeting with Japanese PM, they took stock of bilateral ties and the ground covered during India's G20 presidency and Japan's G7 presidency. He said New Delhi is eager to enhance cooperation in connectivity, commerce and other sectors. About his meeting with UK Prime Minister, Mr. Modi said they discussed ways to deepen trade linkages and boost investment. He added that India and the UK will keep working for a prosperous and sustainable planet. The Prime Minister is also scheduled to have bilateral meetings with leaders of Germany and Italy today. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a dinner for the world leaders and delegates this evening. This is Akashvani giving you the news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts. The Global Biofuel Alliance was launched at the G20 Summit in New Delhi today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the alliance on the sidelines of the summit. US President Joe Biden, Argentina President Alberto Fernandez, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, Brazil President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, among others, were present on the occasion. In a social media post, Prime Minister Modi said the launch of the Global Biofuels Alliance marks a watershed moment in our quest towards sustainability and clean energy. He thanked member nations who have joined the alliance. Our correspondent reports the launch of the Global Biofuel Alliance showcases the action-oriented nature of India's positive agenda as G20 president and representing the voice of the Global South. More in this report.
The Global Biofuel Alliance is an India-led initiative to develop an alliance of governments, international organizations and industry to facilitate adoption of biofuels. The initiative aims to position biofuels as a key to energy transition and contribute to jobs and economic growth. The initiative will benefit India at multiple fronts. The alliance will help strengthen India's position globally and will focus on collaboration. It will provide additional opportunities to Indian industries in the form of exporting technology and equipment. With S.N. Patnaik, Anand Kumar, Akashvani News, Delhi.
An ambitious project to connect India to Europe via the Middle East was announced on the sidelines of the G20 Summit today. The first of its kind project, named India Middle East Europe Connectivity Corridor, along with the Trans-African Corridor, were announced under the Forum of Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment in the presence of top world leaders. The countries involved in the project include the United States, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, France, Germany, Italy and the European Union. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said with this corridor, India will be a medium for economic integration between West Asia and Europe.
फ्रेंड्स, मजबूत कनेक्टिविटी और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मानव सभ्यता के विकास का मूल आधार है। भारत ने अपनी विकास यात्रा में इस विषय को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता दी है। फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ साथ सोशल, डिजिटल तथा फाइनेंशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में अभूतपूर्व पैमाने पर निवेश हो रहा है। इससे हम एक विकसित भारत की मजबूत नींव रख रहे हैं। हमने ग्लोबल साउथ के अनेक देशों में एक विश्वसनीय पार्टनर के रूप में एनर्जी, रेलवे, वाटर, टेक्नोलॉजी पार्क्स जैसे क्षेत्रों में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स इंप्लीमेंट किए हैं। इन प्रयासों में हमने डिमांड ड्रिवन और ट्रांसपेरेंट अप्रोच पर विशेष रूप से बल दिया है।
Terming the corridor as a real big deal, U.S. President Joe Biden said the United States will work with the partners to invest in economic corridors which are game-changer investment. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen termed the deal as historic and said the corridor will speed up trade. Our correspondent takes a look at the significance of the project.
The corridor, which will not only become a bridge between civilizations but also increase India's global influence. The India-Middle East-Europe Connectivity Corridor will link railways and port facilities across the Middle East, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel. The project has the potential to speed up the trade between India and Europe. The initiation for this project started 2 years ago by the announcement of the Partnership for the Global Infrastructure and Investment. US will invest in a new rail lane from Angola towards the Indian Ocean in this project. A memorandum of understanding will take place for working together to develop the corridor. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, Lakshmi, Akashwani News, Delhi.
The death toll in Morocco due to the 7.2 magnitude earthquake has gone up to 1,000. The number of injured has also risen over 600. The earthquake that shook the country late Friday night has caused widespread destruction to lives and properties, including a heritage site as well. The locals were forced to spend the night in the open with rescue teams scaling up efforts to meet the emergency. In Asia Cup cricket, Sri Lanka has set a target of 258 runs against Bangladesh in the Super 4 match at Premadasa Stadium in Colombo today. Chasing the target, Bangladesh were 104 for 4 in 26 overs when reports last came in. Put into bat first, Sri Lanka scored 257 in the stipulated 50 overs. Samara Vikrama top scored with 93 runs, while Mendes scored 50. For Bangladesh, Hassan Mahmood and Taskin Ahmed took 3 wickets each. Tomorrow, India will take on Pakistan in a Super 4 clash at the same venue. The match will start at 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time. A reserve day has been incorporated for the Asia Cup 2023 Super 4's match between India and Pakistan. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. G20 leaders adopts New Delhi Declaration, inclusive growth, climate change and future readiness for health emergencies among focus areas. Global Biofuel Alliance launched at the G20 Summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls upon all countries to work together in the field of fuel blending. India, Middle East, Europe Mega Economic Corridor deal announced. On the sidelines of summit, India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, EU, France, Italy, Germany and US part of corridor. Death toll in Morocco, earthquake rises to over 1,000. Widespread destruction of properties, including a heritage site, reported. In Asia Cup cricket, Super 4's match between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh underway in Colombo. India and Pakistan to clash tomorrow. That is all in the news at 9. Good night.
This is Akashwani. In the program Spotlight,